Goeiedag! Good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. Now let's take the blinkers off, okay? I know the fake news won't report on what's going on in South Africa, and that's where the blinkers are, but we need to get this message out. You know, in 1994, when the white population who had the only vote, rightly or wrongly, agreed to basically hand the country over to the ANC, they handed over a country which was in absolutely immaculate condition. It was like the pearl in the Indian Ocean as far as countries go. It was just a beautiful, well-run state. And it took only 25 years for a black ANC government to run it into the ground through corruption, incompetence, and bringing in racist laws, which is flying in the face of the whole agenda, which was a rainbow nation. And what's happened is, like the boiling frog syndrome, they just kept on putting the screws on more and more and more. And now you've got things like BEE and triple B, double E, which are just destroying this economy, absolutely destroying it. And if you don't believe me, have a look at this video. And what I find very interesting is that the real wheels are starting to fall off just a couple of months after the ANC have been elected. I wonder how that timing was organized. Anyway, let's have a look at the first video.
Well, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, there's been a lot of finger pointing here. You have the municipalities saying they cannot process salaries because money is still being withheld. And on the other hand, you have a treasury, provincial treasury departments saying, we are here to look after public money, and if certain conditions are not met, it is not wise nor prudent to actually do what the municipalities would want us to do. What is your sense of what exactly is going on and who's on the wrong here?
Thank you, Vuyo, and to your listeners. My voice is not correct today, but I hope you can hear me properly.
Yes, I can.
Okay, that's good. Vuyo, I came to your studio, I think, a few weeks ago to indicate that our problem is that Treasury must not be shouting around. Treasury must call us to a meeting to discuss what is their problem in ensuring that municipalities meet their legal obligation of paying workers. And as things stand now, we're expecting Treasury and the COCTA to respond to the legal obligations of workers that have worked who were expecting to get salaries. And at this point, we have raised this point before. We said we want Treasury to propose a permanent solution. If they don't, we have our own view on how the entire national funding of local government must be done. And we're waiting for Treasury to come back to us. They should not be provoking workers through not paying their salaries.
When was the last time you engaged with directly with a Treasury, apart from speaking on platforms like this show, for example?
No, in fact, what we have done, we went to the minister on the 14th of June, Minister of COCTA, the new minister. We met with her. We raised the same issues which we are raising now. And we said, Minister, we want a meeting between ourselves and Treasury. She must coordinate it because we take it that she's responsible for the department. She must coordinate us together as opposed to us calling Treasury, calling them on the side. The government in one, they must agree on themselves on a day to meet with us, because as we speak now, we are sitting with the application for exemption from municipalities that they can't pay employee salaries now. The exemption is going to be happening on the 3rd of July, of August in 2 weeks' time. And we're saying before that time, we must have met ourselves and agree on how we're going to resolve the dispute. Because we are not going to accept a municipality telling us that they can't pay workers.
What was the ministers of the COCTA ministers' response?
The response from the minister was that she has that on hand, she will work on it, and we're surprised that even in her budget vote, she didn't even mention the fact that was saying workers must be paid. And to us, that is a disappointment because we approached her before even this issue arises now. And we're saying we are ready to meet them anytime to ensure that they can pay our municipal workers salaries on time. And we don't expect a layer of the state not to pay salaries. Because if that happens, it means we are approaching what is called a failed local state. And that has a ripple effect on the entire state in itself. And we cannot allow that to happen.
Well,
and if it means if they are requesting us to be on the streets, we'll do that. But we don't think we're at that point now. We're at the point where we're saying let's engage on how they must ensure that they stabilize the environment. Treasury cannot just issue rules and stay away. They must issue rules and say we must comply with 1, 2, 3, and 4, which we agree with them. But they must say to us what is the permanent solution for funding of local government.
That's where we're going to leave it for now. Kwena, thank you very much for your time. Kwena Ramatlo, who is from the South African Municipal Workers Union, saying they have engaged with the minister, have raised these issues, looking for a long-term solution, asking the minister to convene other stakeholders, including Treasury, but all those efforts have come to naught.
So there you have it. Municipalities are bankrupt all over the country, and they're not sure if they can pay their staff. And guess what's happening with the residents in those municipalities? They are not getting services. They're not getting water. They're not getting electricity. They're not having sewage sorted out. Sewage is now flowing directly into rivers all over South Africa, completely killing the ecosystem. Is this the sort of outcome that the world wants? I don't think so. But apparently it does, because it keeps completely quiet about it. I've never heard CNN talk about the state of South Africa. I've never heard the BBC talk about the state of South Africa. Occasionally they might just knock on the door about claims about farm murders and a genocide and things like that, but they kind of push under the carpet what is actually going on in South Africa. And the bigger picture is extraordinarily bad. And yet, the fake news, the mainstream media, are part of a bigger agenda. And that is becoming very, very clear to me. And it's the people who run those media who are letting this happen. I'm not going to say exactly what the agenda is, but I think the United Nations know what that agenda is. And it's not in the interest of the ordinary folk like you and me. There is something very, very big happening behind the scenes here, guys. Very, very big. Consider this fact in South Africa. You had a state-owned enterprise which is basically a critical utility. The Eskom electricity company, which provides 95% of the electricity in South Africa. Now we know from Zimbabwe's experience, where they have huge electricity issues, that if you close down electricity, you close down the country. And what has happened in South Africa since 1994, when Eskom was a profitable, highly profitable business, it is now sunk into a point where close to R500 billion in debt. And that's close to 500 billion rand. And you know where all that money has gone? This is a canary in the cage, because this is happening right through South Africa at all levels of government under the ANC. What has happened to Eskom is that the money has been ripped out of it by corruption, by incompetence, by BEE, by people who don't know what the hell they're doing. And just to make matters worse, you've got huge areas of South Africa, very, very well populated, like Soweto, where they don't pay the Eskom bill. They just, everything for free. Like Julius Malema says, God knows how you're going to pay for it, but everything for free. Let's have a look at that video.
Ms. Mukwena, good morning. Welcome, and thank you very much for your time.
Okay, good morning.
You find yourself in a difficult situation because of this theft of electricity.
Yes, we do.
And how deep is it? How wide is it?
Yeah. In Gauteng, for an example, we have recorded about 11.4% losses, and this is mainly due to non-technical losses. And non-technical losses as a result of people or customers that are breaching our meters, that are tampering with our meters, and people that are illegally connecting or tampering on our networks. So if you look at that, the 11.4% losses, and you look at Gauteng only as distribution Gauteng, we have spent about $500 million in maintaining our networks. And, you know, the biggest portion of that $500 million is mainly on replacing assets that have failed as a result of these illegal connections or illegal operating of our networks, particularly our transformers and mini-subs. Now, definitely we cannot continue like that by experiencing losses at that high rate and also replacing these assets that are failing at a frequent rate.
But you still have the problem of illegal connections, for example, what you call izinyoga, as they say.
Yes.
And how are you going to deal with that? Because I would guess it might not be safe for your personnel to access some of those areas.
Yes, it is not safe. Hence, because the part where now we have illegal connections from, say, for instance, your informal settlements, because these are growing at a higher rate in Gauteng specifically. So the informal settlement will then connect on our networks illegally. But because it's unsafe for our guys to operate or our technicians to operate on these networks, and not necessarily just to operate, but when they try to actually remove these illegal connections, then they get resistance or they get attacked by these same communities. So hence, we work very closely with your SAPS, your POPs and your JMPD. So when we remove these illegals, we actually have joint operations with them to remove them so that it becomes safe for our technical staff not to be attacked.
In the interim, you've announced that you will not restore power to those areas where people have got illegal connections and where people are not paying.
Yes.
How feasible is that? I'm asking this because, most of those areas, as you say, they are unsafe. There's a lot of crime there. We are working with the police, and when there's no light, crime might be exacerbated.
Yeah. Look, what we're saying, and we've been actually doing this since the past year, where proactively we've been analyzing all our transformer zones, for an example, or feeders, where actually there are high losses. Where what we do is go in and audit our meters. Where people have bypassed these meters, then we'll disconnect and fine them. So in a prepaid environment, we'll fine them about 6,052 rands. So once the customer has paid that fine, we'll reconnect.
So are the customers that you've disconnected, that you've not restored the power to, that fall under this category?
Yes, so that was the proactive activity that we had started with. But again, as I said to you, that also on maintenance side, we actually spending that $500 million. And that $500 million, as I said, the most contributing factor is the replacement of transformers and mini-subs. So currently, because it's winter, because of the overloading now, these transformers are failing at a very high rate. Hence, we're saying before we can replace these transformers. So basically, we are servicing all the areas, but we're saying before we can actually replace this transformer or mini-sub, which would have affected a number of people, let us start by auditing our meters and making sure that we disconnect to those that have bypassed meters, so that we actually deal with the root cause of actually these high failure rates that we are
How
experiencing.
confident is Eskom that you can really resolve this problem and minimize or reduce in an effective way the theft of electricity?
Look, I think we are succeeding in areas like, for an example, in your Katle home. It's not just a Soweto problem, by the way. In Deep Sloot, where we would have audited, customers are accepting us now, or accepting the way we are doing things, to say, because it doesn't help. I mean, if I'm going to replace the transformer today, if I didn't audit, because the following day or 2 days later, that transformer fails again. So I think customers, because in the interim, we also, in the process, we also educating customers about.
So you find there's a willingness to really change behavior.
Change behavior, because this culture obviously is coming from, it's a historical thing, and for us to change that culture, it will take us time, but at least now we're seeing that change from our customers to say, we are willing for you to come in and do your audits and disconnecting, and then we leave those customers that have paid or that are paying on. And we then monitor those that are coming in to pay those fines, and then we reconnect them.
Ms. Mukona, thank you very much. We wish you well. We'll touch base with you, because this is a huge problem. If you're spending R500 million on maintenance alone, that's a lot of money that could be going
just
elsewhere.
Only in Gauteng.
Just in Gauteng. Thank you very much. Eskom's Customer Service Senior Manager, Daphne Mukwena, talking to us.
So where is South Africa going? Well, anybody who lives in South Africa, and I challenge anyone in the comments below who lives in South Africa to say otherwise, they will have noticed the increasing level of crime. They will have noticed the decreasing level of services in their own area. And they'll have also noted that the whole political system is becoming very, very shaky. And we have to look no further than what's happening right now with the public protector. And the claims that the ANC are now two huge factions that are at war with each other. And you've now got ANC people who have been murdered. Happened up in Limpopo just yesterday. 2 councillors in a municipality were murdered in cold blood, and it's apparently a political murder because they were going to out someone else over corruption. Now, this is what you call a gangster state. This is a gangster state. The state of South Africa is a complete charade. It's not a state. It's a crime den. All the criminals live in there, and the criminals from the top, from the president down, are on the take. They're all on the take. And what you've got in this den of crime are minority groups who are kind of on the sidelines, and they're stuck in this hellhouse. And I'm talking about the white population, the Indian population, the colored population. They didn't buy into this, but they're caught in it because of their geographic location. This is just not right, guys. And for the rest of the world to just keep on looking the other way is absolutely disgusting. And on this channel, we will keep on exposing what the rest of the world and the media are just covering up. It's that damn important, because if you look what's happening now in places like Europe, even the United States of America, where you've got this invasion of groups who are just not compatible with the community who live there. And you wonder, who is behind this? What is behind this? Why are we doing this? It doesn't make common sense. There is something happening and going on that we, as the general population, are not privy to. South Africa is the canary in the cage. That's what it is. These forces, whoever they are, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so I'm not going to say it's this, that, or the other, but I think people know what I'm talking about. These forces are seeing what happens in South Africa, and they're going to spread that across the world. And we can see that going on in Europe right now. And that's why I am just absolutely shattered when I see the video, which I will link below, about a country which got its independence only a few years before South Africa. And you have a look at the state of that country, and I have absolutely no doubt that that is what every city in South Africa is going to look like in a few years' time. And everything there is self-evident. All right, guys, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed, ring the bell for updates, and have a good day.